Welcome to the Manga Cafe. I am V, and today we will be discussing Hana Yori Dango. Spoiler warning in advance. Hana Yori Dango is a manga about a poor girl, Makino, who attends a high school for the rich because her parents want her to marry rich. She is bullied for being poor and has no friends to talk to for a while during this manga. During this time, she meets Ryu, our first love interest. Ryu is a rich, like any other student who attends this school, but he's different from the rest. Behind his cold exterior, he's gentle and caring. He becomes a safe haven for our main character. Of course, she develops feelings for him, and it is later told to us, readers, that the ringleader of the bullies, Tsukasa, who just so happens to be the richest junior in Japan, has a crush on our main character, Makino. This shoujo manga takes us on a journey of teen romance and the story of the main character figuring out herself and finding friends. It also is about the ups and downs of her relationships as they face problems. So, if you are worried about spoilers about the manga, I advise you to click off of this video and check out something else or go read it because we're about to get into some serious spoilers. So, foremost, I want to start off on the pros of this manga. This manga, the main character is likable, relatable, and she is not weak. Okay? The character, she gets embarrassed. She reacts realistically, at least to what I would see myself reacting to, or I could see another person reacting to reasonably. You know, she's an average girl. She's supposed to be relatable. I hate it when characters are weak. It is a personal pet peeve, so it was nice to see her. She was actually physically strong too. She knocked out like a couple of her bullies. Like she's a bit violent. The second pro that I have is the art style is unique. You know, at first, when I first started reading it, I didn't like the art style. But the more and more I read it, the more that I liked it. And I did see one of the panels where the mangaka talks about their experiences, and she was like, she didn't like her art style, and I was like, oh no. So it made me start to like it even more because they put so much work into this. It's really cool and it's unique. You won't get it confused with any other manga art style ever, really. To add on to that, I will say the chapters are reasonably length because it was made in the 90s and early 2000s, so it wasn't like the mangaka were under a huge time crunch like they are now. Like, mangaka release chapters every week, which is ridiculous, which is why the chapter is only like 5 pages long. But this one, they released a full volume, and the chapters are nice and long, and it can, you know, it's just got a nice flow to it. Every chapter ends leaving you with a little bit of suspense and wanting to read the next chapter. Pacing is impeccable. Another pro that I have for this manga is that the characters are likable. Each and every character has their own character traits, and they're likable. Even the main character, when they were bullying, when the main love interest, Tsukasa, was bullying Makino, they didn't make me hate him. They didn't make him a hateable character, which you have to give props for because sometimes, even in anime, in manga, and in stories in general, they make me hate the main love interest, like in the beginning, because they want to go enemies to lovers. But you have to understand, there's a point in which there's no return. There's no return. But they didn't do that for Tsukasa, especially under the context that it is made in the 90s and early 2000s. So, you gotta kind of lower your standards a little bit with some things we'll get into at the cons, some pretty bad things, but they didn't make me hate the main character, which is nice. She has a best friend named Yuki. Yuki is she's just adorable, likable. All all of them are amazing. The family is hilarious. Also, the manga really induces emotions. Like, I've never wanted to physically fight a character until reading this book. Like, I've felt this way about TV shows because I get really invested. Like, I'm a binge watcher, I'm a binge reader. When I'm into a show or a piece of content, I'm invested. And so, I've never been that way about any manga, really, in particular, where I've wanted to physically fight a character. But there's a girl, I think her name is Yuma, or, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like Iyumi. Tsukasa loses his memory, and for some reason, he only forgets Makino, the main character. And so she goes under the pretense that she's a wolf in sheep's clothing. She is a snake. She is everything terrible. She gets Makino to trust her, and she's like, "Oh, I'll help him remember because you're a little too intense and da 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 da." Meanwhile, she's trying to steal her man. Yes, trying to take her whole man, Tsukasa. That's crazy, and she almost gets away with it too. Is the crazy part, but Tsukasa snaps to his senses, even though he doesn't remember Makino. He just knows something ain't right with this girl. He pops off on her as he should, because no man. And one of Makino's friends, who was a go-go dancer, enemies to friends way earlier in the book. She tells her off. She goes off on her, and ooh. And I was just so happy because I got a workout when I was reading that chapter, because I was definitely throwing hands with the air. But yeah, so that chapter, that arc was amazing. And he remembers Makino after she busts him in the head with a baseball. I said she was violent. I wasn't playing like she's hella violent like throughout the whole thing, but we love it. It's okay because it's a 2000s manga, a 90s manga. We have to, realize there's some things that just weren't off the table, and we'll get into more of that, like I said, in the cons, because, boy, are there some cons. Okay, this is a trigger warning, just in advance for the cons, because the manga, it goes there, and I'm going to address that. Okay, and so now we're moving on to the cons. The only cons that I have with this manga is that they mention specific brands, which is a small pet peeve. Like, I don't mind it. Last, final, and the biggest con about this manga, like the hugest, the con that almost made me stop reading it before I even got to the good part, is the way that they use R and SA as a plot device. Because in the beginning of the manga, the main character is just like, "Oh, I thought they were gonna R me. I was scared for my life." You don't just throw that around, like, you don't do that. You don't do that. If you're gonna make a character go through something like that, be genuine about it. There's the right and the wrong way to do it, and that was just the wrong way to do it. They made it more of a joke, like, haha, she thought she was gonna get R'd. Well, there's nothing funny about that. And that's the huge con that I was talking about earlier. They do that too. They did that too much in I'd say the first 5 volumes, even. Like, they don't mention that type of stuff later on, but it's hard to get through. Like, seriously, who? And I know it's like a 90s and 2000s things. Like, I thought I was gonna get art. Like, no, don't. No, that's not funny. That is not funny. And that almost made me put down the book entirely. But I chose to suffer through it because honestly I was bored. But I'm glad that I did, because they stopped. If they would have continued it for a prolonged period of time, I would not be making this video right now. But they stopped it, and they stopped it before it got, and the character didn't actually get sexually assaulted, essayed, but it was a little bit too much. It was handled a little too lightly for me. That's something that I just personally don't play about. If you're going to address that through a piece of art, make it tasteful. And this was not tasteful. And they really didn't even address the issue. They just used it as a plot device for comedy, which is never a good thing. This sums up my opinions on the manga so far. Of course, I have so much more to say, so if anyone is listening to this or watching this, feel free to DM me and we can talk about it, because I don't have anyone to talk about this manga with. I mean, I can explain it to my best friend, but there's some things you just have to have read it to feel me on a spiritual level, and I don't think anyone that I know has a weird fixation on early 2000s manga and 90s, even 70s manga. I will be making a video on a 70s manga that I read. It's called Glass Mask, and it's amazing. But yeah, as you have probably seen throughout the video, I have made some fan art of the main characters, Makino and Tsukasa, because they are so cute. Let's get into Tsukasa really quickly before I leave, because Tsukasa's character design, he has swag. Like, for a second, I thought he was a light-skinned brother. Like, I'm gonna just be honest. Like, but we know he's Japanese, but still, he was giving me, what he was giving what needed to be gave, basically. But the curly hair, you'll never really see that in any manga or anime unless it's an afro. But he had loose textured curly hair, which is unique, especially for a main love interest. And he had swag. Like, he was wearing like shoes. I couldn't even look them up, but I know they have like a little star symbol. I think they're Converses, but I'm not quite sure. Those shoes, I think Kendrick wore them. Like, anyways, some very popular shoes. He's bougie, of course, because he's rich. And I just love his character design. But I've made some fan art of the two because they are in-game. So I made them how I think they would have dressed in 2021. Or maybe 2015. Maybe I'm stuck in 2015 and no one has just let me know. But this is what I think of them. Let me know what you think of it in the comments, if there's anyone listening or watching. Yeah, and I'm going to continue this series. So if you have a 90s, 2000s, or before 90s manga that you think I should read that is shoujo. Specifically, I don't really do anything other than shoujo. Tried a couple horror ones. It's not really my thing. I've read Beastars, so that's action, and I'm reading like a slice of life one that isn't romance. So it's more like action and comedy. So I'll give that a try. But basically, it has to tease me at least a little bit. You know what I mean? I can't just go out there with no love at all. If not, I would just be living my own life. Come on. But I really enjoyed talking with you about this manga. It's really popular, so I'm sure other people have read it or watched the anime or even the TV show or the movie. I didn't even know this until I was looking up stuff for this video. There is a movie. I'm definitely gonna watch the movie, and I'm definitely gonna watch the anime. Maybe I'll leave a review about the anime too. But these are my opinions on the manga, so enjoy the rest of your night or your day.